Dan Illman, Mike Beer kicking off a 50-cent pick four at Gulfstream Park on Fountain of Youth Saturday with race number 11, the Grade 3 Honey Fox for fillies and mares going a mile on the turf. Let's take a look at this field. Trainer Chad Brown has two horses returning off layoffs. They both exited the scene in very good form, including the number 3 Speak of the Devil. Okay, she got beat by 3 good ones in her last start to Just a Game, but you can make the argument, Mike, if she runs back to her North American debut at Churchill Downs last year, the rest of this field's running for second.
Yeah, you could make that argument. To me, she's the key to this whole race, Dan. Her stateside debut, and by the way, she arrived in really good form from France, but her stateside debut in the Distaff Turf Mile at Churchill, she was super that day, winning over a good field with a fast figure. And then, for whatever reason, just didn't run nearly as well the last time we saw her in the Just a Game. That race was followed by a layoff, so perhaps something went wrong.
Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this year's edition of the Honey Fox, the uncoupled stablemate of Speak of the Devil. That's Faith and Humanity. Should show speed from the inside as she did last time out in the Pebbles. Sweet Danny Girls are fast horse. Sweet Enough has shown speed, but in longer distance races, I think they take back with her a little bit here.
Yeah, it'll be, I don't know. I really had a tough time figuring out how this pace was going to play out. Although I will say, I find it hard to believe that Faith and Humanity is going to make the lead in here if anybody else wants it. I know she wired the Pebbles the last time we saw her, but that was a super slow pace.
I expect Sweet Danny Girl to be sent from class, is also stretching out in distance and could play a part in this pace. Faith and Humanity, very lightly raced. She's only started 3 times in her career. She's never finished worse than second, and she did take the Grade 3 Pebbles, the race we're going to show you right now. This race was back on September the 18th, and she just had an easy trip on the lead. They went a half mile in 49 and change, and Faith and Humanity sprints on home to beat 2 next out winners. The runner-up coming back to win the Grade 1 Queen Elizabeth, the second cup with a 91 buyer. She missed the rest of the year with a minor injury, and we'll see what she does off the layoff here.
Yeah, I mean, she's very lightly raced, and she showed some ability anyway, even before that Pebbles last time, Dan. So it's not going to be a surprise if she comes back off the layoff here and is really competitive in this race. She can certainly, even if she doesn't make the lead, she can still get a good trip from the rail. To me, it's just hard to, really want to take any kind of a short price on her based on the Pebbles, because even though she beat a good field, she took advantage that day, got really lucky to win on a slow pace, just sprinting home the last quarter of a mile.
Sweet Enough is the number 2, and it's all a question of how good you think Sweet Enough is. She was good enough to win a high-level allowance at Gulfstream 2 starts back. Last time out in the Pegasus World Cup, she was likely in a little bit too steep and being involved in a very fast pace. They went the opening quarter in 23 seconds flat. Likely didn't do her any favors. I think against this sort of competition, she may run a little bit better, but she still has to prove she's stakes class on the grass.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Just has an awful lot to prove here, but it's not one of those horses where I feel like you could look at her on paper and go, well, she just has no chance in here. I don't think she's one of those, but she is a horse who showed that she didn't really handle a step up in class over in England before she got here, and she certainly hasn't handled the step up in class in a couple of appearances in Stakes Company in North America either. So she's got a lot to prove, but I don't think she's impossible.
The number 3 Speak of the Devil, as we mentioned, was tremendous in winning the Grade 2 Distaff Turf Mile at Churchill Downs in her North American debut. Like many European imports, she didn't break very well. She saved ground. Once she got to the outside on the second turn, she made this big sweeping move to make the lead, and she humbled some good horses in Italian and Wakanaka. Now, she didn't fire in the Just a Game as the favorite in her most recent start. That was on Belmont Stakes Day. Chad said she had surgery after that race, so she's coming into this off a long layoff.
Yeah, those things are concerns, obviously. With a filly or a mare now, feels like she has to take some money in this race, Dan. Like you referenced in the open, if she comes back and runs as well as she did in that Distaff Turf Mile, she's going to win this race. She was really impressive that day, but as good as she was in the Distaff Turf Mile, that's how bad she was in the Just a Game. That was a fast pace. She was back off it with Regal Glory and Wakanaka. Those 2 horses kicked on, and this filly showed nothing.
White Frost, the number 4, looked like she was going to be on her way to being one of the top 3-year-old turf fillies in 2021. She won the Sweetest Chant early in the year, and then she missed most of the remainder of the year. She came back with a good stakes placing in a key race, a race where she got wired. Then she missed all of 2022. Bill Mott kept the White Frost made that faith pay off with a nice allowance win off a very lengthy layoff. And Mike, she traveled well all the way around in here, sitting second, making the lead, and striding on home. It wasn't a strong field, but I'm sure it's everything Mott could have hoped for off the bench.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I looked at it too, Dan. She certainly, if nothing else, she looked ready for a return off the layoff. She had good speed in there. She always looked like she was going to win, and she did win. She's just shown nothing but talent since they switched her over to the grass, Dan. At the end of the day, she should be undefeated on the turf. She should have won that Winter Memories before that long layoff. Got totally blocked through the stretch, and when she got clear, it was too late, and she still almost won. This mare is really, really good. This is obviously the toughest test to date, though.
She's tactical, though, and she can work out any trip her rider asks for. The 5 is Kahiko, a horse that's done some good things in her career, both on synthetic, on turf. Not exactly against stakes competition just yet, but last time out, she ran in a 6-figure handicap at Gulfstream on the synthetic surface. And as we see turning into the stretch, she is crying out for room under Arad Ortiz. She's in behind horses. She's still in behind horses. She's looking for a seam, and eventually she'll finish second. Maybe not the most ideal trip, because once she got clear, the horse on the outside had all the momentum. Big step up in class, though. I'd prefer to see her back in a similar spot on synthetic or turf against slightly weaker.
I agree. She's run some good races. I don't know that I necessarily feel like she's a graded stakes kind of horse on the turf, but she has run some good races. She also has really good tactical speed, which is certainly going to be a benefit to her in this race. And, you know, we just watched that replay of her last start day. She got really unlucky there.
Miss Delicious, the number 6, won me over last year with a couple of victories at Delaware Park. And while she was coming off a layoff last time out, it wasn't as much of a layoff as White Frost. And I hope that maybe White Frost wouldn't be ready. I bet Miss Delicious last time out. And as we saw in the replay, she was no match second. Now she has to face White Frost again, but not just White Frost, some other very good ones.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but she's also feels like she's going to be a pretty good price once again in this race, Dan, and it's getting harder and harder to knock her form. She started getting really good last year. She came off the layoff last time and ran another good one, even though she was never a real threat to White Frost. There was nothing wrong with that performance. She could get another good trip here, Dan, and make a little bit of noise.
Princess Theorem showed some ability earlier in her career and then sort of got stalled in the allowance ranks and just couldn't find a victory. Last time was the time, however. She not only found the right field, she found the good trip in this first level allowance race where she just tucked in behind horses, got to the outside and rolled them down. The pace wasn't very fast. A lot of things went her way. She does have back class, so you have that to at least hang your hat on, but she's going to probably have to improve off this race.
That's kind of how I looked at her too, but she's another horse. So I don't think, you know, is it an impossible spot here, Dad? She ran well last time. That was a pretty weak field, I thought, though. The trip was an absolutely perfect one, but she did what she was supposed to do with it, and she won easy.
Miss Yearwood, the number 8, has a lot of potential for trainer Ian Wilkes. We haven't seen her since September, but she's run well on dirt, and then she took her game to the next level when moving to turf, and especially stretching out in distance. Case in point, this effort, 3rd in the Jockey Club Oaks during the Belmont at Aqueduct meet. And as you can see, she's just a big, sizable filly, taking these long strides. She really seemed to appreciate the 1 3/8, grinding it out to finish 3rd against a good field. I wonder if a mile is a little bit sharp for her off the layoff, but I expect her to be running late.
Yeah, I do too. I wonder if it's sharp for her, especially on this turf course at Gulfstream Park. But overall, I don't really mind them running her in a shorter race. Maybe she'll catch a little bit more pace this time and have something to really run at. That race we just watched was fine. I mean, she was closest at the finish, but her turf debut prior to that at Ellis Park, she was really impressive that day, coming from last with a big finish to close that race down. I really liked that performance. She showed ability on dirt, and she has transferred it over to the turf.
Number 9, Touch of Class. The last time she ran a mile, she was on the lead that day. And I think stretching out off several sprints, she could be part of the pace. She faced an extremely hot horse sprinting last time out. The winner of that race came back to win another stake at the fairgrounds with a 92 buyer. That horse has won 5 in a row. That horse has won 9 of her last 10. Touch of Class, though, has to answer the mile question. Maybe she'll be aggressively ridden and try to steal it.
Yeah, I guess they got to just come out of their running, try to put her on the lead, and see and see how far she can take this field in. They've tried the mile distance with her 2 other times on turf. She had the lead in the stretch both times, and she couldn't finish it off. And they weren't against horses of this quality, so it feels like a pretty tall order for her. But she's run some fast races for sure.
Stakes debut for the number 10, Fast as Flight, who's coming into this tougher race in very good form. Here's her most recent win. This is a high-level allowance race at Gulfstream, going the mile on January the 29th, and by the time we pick up the tape, she's taken complete control.
Yeah, good performance here. Couldn't hold off Kahiko 2 starts back, but she ran well that day. This one just feels like a situation where she caught the right kind of field as the favorite, and does what she's supposed to do. Wins the race very easily. Another step in the right direction. I guess even as a 5-year-old, Dan, she's still lightly raced enough that maybe you can project one more forward move.
I think you can also project perhaps some forward move from the 11, Sweet Danny Girl, who was a stakes winner on dirt at 2. In her abbreviated 2022 campaign, she faced some good dirt fillies, the likes of Kathleen O and Matarea. And last time out off the long layoff, these connections did a very good job getting her ready for her turf debut. She won the Sunshine filly and mare turf. She showed good speed in this race, and she showed no rust off the long layoff. It helped that she didn't have to go very fast the opening half mile.
Yeah, exactly. She had the right kind of trip in here to prevail off the layoff, and I like the way that she stays on at the end and holds to get the victory. It's not the strongest field in the world, though, so as well as she ran, she had the right kind of trip, and now she's moving way up in class.
Yep, those are state breds. Now she's going to face open graded competition. Let's take a look at our top picks for the Honey Fox. This is the first leg of a 50-cent pick 4. We're both fans of White Frost. Bill Mott, the master, had her ready off the layoff. I think she'll be a better price than the 2 Chad returnees, and I like her tactical speed.
I like all those things too. I won't be surprised if she takes another step forward here, Dan. This mare has a lot of talent, and I think that she showed off the long layoff last time that she can still run. This is a good spot for her. She'll have her hands full of Speak the Devil. Comes back off the layoff running, but I'm going to make that horse prove it at a short price.
I will as well, and I'm also curious to see how Miss Yearwood does. Maybe this distance is a little sharp, but this might be a nice stepping stone to something longer down the road. 4381 for Mike, 48111 for me, in the Grade 3 Honey Fox on Fountain of Youth Saturday. Good luck.